Welcome back. Happy Friday out there. Hope you guys all had a good week out there, and hopefully you've got some fun stuff planned for this weekend. And also wanted to say a happy Valentine's Day out there, which I'm going to go partake in after this video. But today I did want to talk about our first season preview of 2025 with Kubota High-Limit Racing. And I didn't know where to start, so I just went with Brent Marks. There wasn't any rhyme or reason as to the order of these videos and how they're going to go. I just got Brent Marks here on the board. He was texting me yesterday, getting his High Roller playlist all dialed in, so I guess he was the most recent one in my mind. So that's who I picked here for this first video. So Brent Marks, the driver of the Murray Marks Racing number 19. He is 34 years old at the time of this recording. Myerstown, Pennsylvania is his hometown. He drives a Maxim chassis. His car chief is Heath Moyle. His tire specialist is Dennis Christ. This is his second year with High-Limit Racing as a full-time contender. A lot of the people that we do these videos for, a lot of the drivers are going to be in year number 2 with the series, but obviously we will have a couple that are in year number 1. Now, something I wanted to do with these videos that I thought would be interesting is looking at the 2025 schedule with High-Limit Racing. Brian Walker did a lot of research here, getting this all figured out for us here for his own stuff that he does on the High Limit social medias, but I'm going to use it here for these videos as well. The red writing there are tracks that each driver is going to for the very first time. The green writing are tracks that the driver has won at before in their career. So we look at Brent Marks here, really not too much on either side. There are 6 tracks where he has actually gotten a victory at in his career: Port Royal Speedway, Eldora Speedway, the Path Valley Speedway, Texas Motor Speedway, Grandview Speedway, and Tri-City Speedway. So 6 tracks that Brent Marks has won at before in his career. He'll be returning to next season with High-Limit Racing. And then looking over here at this side of the board where he has never been to, the Kern County Raceway in Bakersfield, California, the Arizona Speedway, of course, in Arizona, Vado Speedway in New Mexico, the Route 66 racetrack in Texas, Texarkana in Arkansas, 141 and Red Cedar in Wisconsin, and Florence Speedway in Kentucky. So what you'll notice here with Brent Marks, and what's going to be a recurring theme here in these videos, is these first about 5 or so tracks here, a lot of guys have never been to before. And so that means that they're going to have a little bit of struggles here at the beginning of the year to try and, get themselves in a good spot in the point standings when these guys are professionals, but it is hard to show up at a racetrack you've never been to before, never seen before, and to do it, in back-to-back fashion. They go to Vegas, and then the next race after that, I believe, is Tulare and then Kern. I can't remember off the top of my head, but Kern, and then a race after that, or 2 races later, is 2 nights at Arizona. Then the next race is Vado. Then the next race is Route 66. Then I think there's like 2 races off, and then Texarkana. So for Brent Marks, he's going to be going to a lot of new racetracks at the beginning of the year. And then after that, 141 and Red Cedar, obviously those are back-to-back. Florence Speedway is later on in the year, so it kind of cools off for him after that. But that beginning portion of the season could be an interesting one to watch for this particular driver. Now, looking at the far board over there, the far side of the board, I should say, SprintCarRatings.com last year, Brent Marks was the 13th best driver in 2024 among all 410 Sprint Car drivers. And in parentheses there is his ranking among his fellow high-limit drivers, which he was the 4th best last year between the high-limit regulars, including Rico Abreu, I believe it was Brad Sweet, Tyler Courtney, and then Brent Marks was the next best there for high limit. His best stat from 2024, when comparing him to the other 16 drivers that ran last year, he was the 2nd best in hard chargers. He had 5 of those to his credit, and then he had 24 dash appearances, which is also 2nd best with the series. And so it's kind of a weird thing because they don't really correlate. The dash appearances mean you start up front. The hard chargers mean you start at the back. So I guess he's good at both of those things. I thought that was interesting. Also, last year, Brent Marks was 4th in the overall driver point standings with high limit. We'll get more into what I think he'll do here in just a few moments. His overall stat line from last year, he had 51 starts, 3 wins, 14 top 5s, 34 top 10 finishes, 58 laps led. He was a plus 53 in the feature plus minus department. He had a 7.3 qualifying average and an average finish of 9.4 in the main events. So that qualifying average is very, very good. And if we look towards the bottom portion of this board here, we'll look at his strengths, things I think he needs to improve on, and I will give my prediction as to what I think he will do this season behind the wheel of that number 19 car. Now, in the strengths department, which the first one is weird because 5 years ago, this is not something you would have said that was a strength of Brent Marks, and that is qualifying. He has gotten unbelievably better at qualifying over the last couple of seasons. That 7.3 qualifying average was in the top half of drivers from last year. He also had 6 quick times, which was in the top 5 of all drivers last year. So he was very, very good in qualifying, and that is obviously something you need to be able to do if you want to contend for a championship on the road full time with a series. He's also well traveled. He's been all over the country. He ran the Outlaw Tour for 3 years and now a full-time year with High Limit. So Brent Marks has been there and done that. I mean, sure, he's got, 8 racetracks right there he's never been to, but there's a lot of guys in that same department as him. But still, Brent Marks is a very well-traveled driver. His team, his crew guys are all well-traveled as well. They've probably seen about everything you could think of. And I think that does have a little bit of an advantage over maybe some guys that are coming into the series for the very first time, such as a Chase Randall or a Danny Sams or a Dason Persley. Just wait until we get to Dason Persley's list here of the 2025 schedule. And it's going to be a lot of red on there. Also for Brent Marks, he has won a lot of big shows in his career. And so when he gets into those situations, maybe during the season where maybe he's up front at the Tuscarora 50, he's up front for maybe the Gold Cup or the Skagit Nationals or something. He's battling for the lead. I really don't think the nerves are there for Brent Marks. I think he's going to stay calm, cool, and collected because he has won the King's Royal. He's won the historical big one. He's won the National Open, right? He's done so many big things. And so I think that does help him out in the long run compared to some drivers that if they're running up front even for a regular show, they could be getting nervous because they've never been in that position before. The final thing I have on the strengths department here is his ability to pass cars. That is always something that Brent Marks has been very good at. And when he was on the Outlaw Tour, and that was something that we all noticed, most of the time because he could not qualify. And so he was always trying to fight his way towards the front of the field. And now since he's been able to qualify, he's able to stay up towards the front and still pass cars. As you can see here, a very good qualifying average and still a plus 53 in the features. So Brent Marks, his ability to pass cars may be one of the best in the series this year with High Limit Racing, and we'll see if that continues on in 2025. Now, things that he needs to improve on. The first one I have on the board there is the West Coast swing. Things did not go very well at all for Brent Marks on the West Coast swing. He really, really struggled a lot there. He did get going. I do want to mention this. He did get going at Skagit. He did have 3 top 10s there in the 3 races at Skagit, but he was multiple laps down at Kings Speedway. He, I want to say, needed a provisional off the top of my head here at Placerville. He didn't make the show at the Gold Cup Race of Champions. So the West Coast swing is something this team definitely needs to improve upon. And for the problem with them this year, there are 2 West Coast swings. Obviously, right off the bat, you go to Tulare, Paris, and Bakersfield or Kern County. And so hopefully Brent Marks can figure things out or else he's going to be behind the 8 ball very, very quickly. The consistency for the full year is another thing we need to talk about when talking about Brent Marks. And I'm trying to pull up the stat here on my computer because it was one of the more alarming things that I saw last season for him. From the first half of the season last year, Brent Marks was incredible. He had a 7.2 average finish. He had the most top 10s in a row, leading the entire series. I want to say it was 14 top 10s in a row, the most of anybody. But then the second half of the year, which includes that West Coast swing, that average finish went from 7.2 to 11.6 in the second half. So we need to see that consistency the full year from Brent Marks. And then at the very bottom of the board there, he needs to perform where he is good at. We know how good he is at Port Royal Speedway, but the question is, why was he outside the top 10 in all 3 nights at the Tuscarora 50? There goes a ton of points right there at a track where we would expect to see him contending for the win, being in the top 5. He even needed a provisional, I believe, to make the finale show as well. I think something weird happened there. I don't remember everything that happens, guys, but I do remember him needing a provisional because something weird happened. But perform where you're good at. If you are a 15 or multi-time winner at a racetrack, there's no reason you should be outside the top 10. You need to be getting those points where you can get them at places that you know you can get them at. So those are a couple things that Brent Marks needs to improve on if he wants to try and contend for this championship this year. But when we get to that point, I'm going to say the prediction for Brent Marks this year. I mentioned last year he was 4th in point standings for the drivers. I think he's going to be somewhere in that same area. I've got him from 4th to 5th in points. I think it's going to be a battle between himself and Aaron Reitzel throughout the year for those 2 spots. Also, I think he will be closer to the top 3 at the end of the year. Let's double check the points last year, how far Brent Marks was back. By the end of the year, he was 488 points behind your champion Brad Sweet. So I do think that this year he will be a lot closer to Rico Abreu, Tyler Courtney, and Brad Sweet. But I don't know if he's able to jump into that top 3 and challenge them for one of those podium positions in the championship. I think he's also going to get 5 wins. He had 3 last year. There was a couple of races last season where he was leading. I want to say Brent Marks led 5 races last year, only got 3 wins. But I think he's going to win more races next year. And the other thing, I think he's going to have less DNFs. He had 5 DNFs last season with Highlander Racing. I remember 2 of them came in Lucas Oil Speedway where he flipped in both of those races, which was really weird. And then he had some other issues along the way that did not allow him to finish some races. So I think less DNFs, a couple more wins. I think he's going to be closer to the top 3 in the point standings. And I think it's going to be a battle between himself and Aaron Reitzel for 4th in the overall championship standings. But if he goes better than that, I would not be shocked at all. So let me know your thoughts. Let me know your prediction for Brent Marks down in the comment section below. Please hit the like button as well. If you would like a Rodman Rundown t-shirt, we have those down below the video if you want to go to the Bonfire website and pick one up. I've got one sitting right here. This is what it looks like, or this is one of the options that we have as well. If you'd like to get one, those are down there and available as well. So I want to say thank you to all you guys for watching. Hope you all have a great weekend. We'll be back here on Monday on the Rodman Rundown unless some crazy news comes out here over the weekend. But we will see you guys for sure on Monday. Thank you all so very much for watching. Talk to you again soon.